This is apropos. Well, the Trump administration has finalised a $20 billion lifeline for Argentina weeks after the country's right-wing leader was forced to go cap in hand to Washington to seek financial assistance after suffering a string of setbacks. With the pressure mounting ahead of legislative elections later this month, our team on the ground report now on how ordinary Argentinians are coping as the country sinks into recession.
Javier Milei has certainly brought inflation under control, but despite this victory, living in Argentina today is very expensive, almost as much as in France, while the minimum wage here is only 250 euros.
This bar of chocolate costs almost 7 euros. It doesn't make sense.
Like most Argentinians, Camila, who earns 700 euros a month, cuts back on all her expenses.
I buy lower quality products. I've switched to second brands. I buy less.
Consumption continues to fall, down almost 20% in a year for this grocery store. This drop in demand, combined with the indiscriminate opening up to competition from imports, is weighing heavily on Argentina's manufacturing sector. This textile factory has seen its orders fall by 50% since Javier Milei took office. It is now operating at reduced capacity.
We had to lay off 7 out of 20 employees and cut one shift, which represents a day and a half less. We're now operating at 50% of our capacity. And if the decline continues, we'll have to close.
16,000 businesses have closed in 2 years, leaving more than 250,000 employees out of work. And the layoffs continue. These 300 workers at the ceramics factory were laid off a month ago without compensation. Some employers are taking advantage of the recent dismantling of worker protection laws to avoid paying them. Fernando was a great admirer of Javier Milei, and now he feels betrayed.
It's Milei who allowed this situation to happen. I voted for him, and I apologize to all Argentinians who are now in a terrible situation. I feel guilty because I really believed that things would be better with him. But we're no better off. Look around.
This grim economic picture is one of the reasons for Javier Milei's recent loss of popularity. The parliamentary elections at the end of October are shaping up to be challenging for him.
For more, we're joined now by Ignacio Labaqui, political analyst and professor of Latin American politics and international relations at Universidad Católica Argentina. Thank you so much, Ignacio, for being with us on the programme. So, not so long ago, the Trump administration finalising that $20 billion financial lifeline for Argentina. Why is this happening now, and how significant is this move?
I would say it's quite significant because the U.S. has rarely given financial support to LATAM countries, especially countries that are so far away as Argentina. We've seen the U.S. Providing a large package, for instance, in the 1994 Mexican crisis, but this for Argentina is unprecedented. And I think that rather than analyzing this in terms of the close ideological alignment that Milei can have with Trump, it's much more understood by geopolitics, right? Clearly, for the first time in a very, I would say, in more than 30 years, the U.S. is putting Latin America as a priority in its foreign policy. And the support for Milei, it's one proof of that, I would say. So Mr. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, had already said that when the Argentina reached an agreement with the IMF back in April this year, that if necessary, the U.S. would provide financial support to stabilize or to help stabilize the Argentinian economy.
And does it actually need then that all this additional aid, given the fact that it has received a bailout so recently from the IMF? And is this going to fix the long-term economic problems in Argentina?
Well, I would say that President Milei decided to tackle some long-standing macroeconomic imbalances that Argentina had and that had taken the country to be on the brink of hyperinflation when Milei took office, right? But obviously, solving those problems is quite difficult, and especially for an administration that lacked support in Congress, right? Milei was elected president in a runoff, and in the first round, he only got 30% of the vote, and he only has 10% of the Senate and 15% of the lower house. Obviously, Milei could have broadened his base of support by crafting a large coalition in Congress, but he refused to do so, which I think it was not the best decision. Will the U.S. support help? Yes, to a certain extent. I mean, it removes certain concerns about debt payment capacity, and it will also help the government to get to the 26 October election without going through an episode of exchange rate volatility. Typically, ahead of elections, you see a hedging by Argentinian citizens who basically purchase dollars just in case. That, and together with the fact that the Central Bank of Argentina has very few reserves, had been weakening the peso and taking the exchange rate to the top of the exchange rate band agreed with the IMF, which forced the central bank to sell dollars. So this announcement by Scott Bessent and this operation that the U.S. conducted today, basically purchasing pesos and selling dollars, is something that could bring some exchange rate stability until the elections are over. But it's not a fix to Argentina's long-standing problems, which date not from the day Milei began his term in the presidency, but for at least since, I would say, the first Cristina Kirchner administration, when the government opted to run a populist macroeconomic policy.
And you referred to the elections there. How is he expected to do in those parliamentary elections in a couple of weeks' time?
I would say that 3 or 4 months ago, the outlook seemed much more favorable for Milei, thanks to his success in bringing down inflation, right? But a set of scandals, one, a corruption scandal that involves his sister, and the fact that since April, the economy has remained stagnant due to, I would tend to think, some unforced mistakes made by the government, particularly in the realm of exchange rate, monetary policy, and wages policy, have hurt the government's approval, right? Also, the electoral strategy of the government has been poorly designed in the sense that for a while, the government relied on allies to pass legislation in Congress. Those allies were provincial governors or leaders from other parties. But when it came to sealing alliances for the elections, Milei decided to compete with his party, La Libertad Avanza, in each province, except for a few districts in which he sealed pact with the Radical Party or with Mauricio Macri's party. And he picked also not very good candidates to fill the tickets, right? And that obviously has hurt its chances. So at the moment, it's not clear whether La Libertad Avanza is going to be the most voted party at the national level. If it is, it will be mainly because of the fragmentation of the opposition, the fact that Peronism is not running with the same seal, with the same party label in all Argentina's 24 provinces. And the main question is whether La Libertad Avanza obtains a third of the lower house, which would shield Milei from the overriding of a presidential veto, for instance. I mean, at no point Milei could have expected to have a majority in Congress because it's only half of the lower house that is being renewed and a third of the Senate, and it was arithmetically impossible to obtain a victory that could have given him a majority. But at least he was expected to have, under better conditions, between him and allied blocs, about 110 seats of the 257 seats of the lower house. Now, I think what it's more realistic is to think about La Libertad Avanza, his party getting to the third of the lower house.
And the timing of this support coming from the US and the fact that Milei's heading to the White House again for another meeting with Trump, is that really going to be a help to him with voters, or is it a hindrance coming as it does so close to these elections?
I think that we can think about the situation Argentina is going through as if the government has three battlefronts. One has to do with the financial market. The second, Congress. The third one is public opinion and elections, right? So definitely Trump's financial support will contribute to have exchange rate stability and also to lower sovereign spreads, right? To reduce the bonds risk premium. And that's, I would say, important. And it's important also for other political actors in Argentina to get the message that that Milei has a strong support from Trump. But U.S. support doesn't basically fix the election or Congress, where Milei has suffered a setback of defeats nearly for every week over the past 3 months.
Ignacio, thanks so much for being with us on the programme. We'll have to leave it there for now. We are out of time. That is Ignacio Labaqui, political analyst from the Universidad Católica Argentina. Thanks so much for being with us. Well, that is it from us for now. Stay with us, though, for more world news here on France 24.